This is Johnny, the chubby, Caucasian, Christian, closeted conservative. Some might say I'm everything wrong with the world, but don't take their word for it. Make up your own mind. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chubby, Caucasian, Christian, Closeted Conservative. I originally had this whole episode planned where I was going to play just gaffes of Joe Biden and joke around a little bit during this holiday season, but I actually got fact-checked by Facebook. And I completely had to throw that episode out the window. Luckily, I did save all the audio of Uncle Joey Biden, but I had to get this out. So let's chew the fat about my first Facebook fact check. My Facebook page is starting to gain a little momentum. I usually get a handful of people who view the post daily and a comment occasionally. But I posted a meme comparing Kyle Rittenhouse and Timothy Simpkins. Now, right now, I'm sure everybody knows who Kyle Rittenhouse is, and those of you who don't know who Timothy Simpkins is, all I have to say is you are racist. I'm sorry, I am the one that had to bring that to your attention. That does not bring me a lot of pleasure, but it's unfortunate that you recognize a Caucasian male, Kyle Rittenhouse, his name, but when I say the name Timothy Simpkins, you have no idea who I'm talking about. You have completely blocked this individual from your memory because of the color of his skin. I'm being sarcastic, of course, because you don't know this name because no one talks about him. I'm sure many people have posted a lot of things where you get that little caption underneath that says, "This is missing context" or misinformation. Click here to see why. This is the first time it's actually happened to me because I go through lengths to check the stuff that I post on Facebook. In fact, 90% of the stuff I post is CNN articles, USA Today articles, where I just give my opinion and then I post direct quotes from the article. Direct quotes from the article. So I posted this meme, and it compares Kyle Rittenhouse to Timothy Simpkins. If you don't know who Timothy Simpkins is, he brought a gun to a school and injured 4 people, shot one individual 4 times, and one of the individuals that was injured was a teacher. So the meme has a picture of Kyle and Timothy side by side. It says, Kyle shoots 3 criminals in self-defense, bail set at $2 million, harassed by state prosecutors and the news media to this day. Timothy, on the other side, brings a gun to school, shoots 4 people, including a teacher, bail set at $25,000 and is released the next day. Facebook fact-checked me with a PolitiFact article. These are the same people who spent days fact-checking Joe Biden stumbling over the word eager. That was going to be the topic that I actually was planning on talking about today, but I'll have to save it for my next episode. But they fact-check him stumbling over the word eager. Now, their fact-check of me is very interesting. I'm going to wait till the end to give you their rating. So if your time is short, I'm gonna just kind of peruse through the article here because I spent a long time reading it and highlighting it, breaking down every sentence because there's not a lot. There's not a lot that they put in here. So if your time is short, just in case you didn't know, 2 people were killed and the third was wounded in the shooting involving Kyle Rittenhouse, a white teen during violent protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin. For Timothy, no one died in Texas shooting involving a black teen, Timothy Simpkins, that left 3 people wounded. I posted this weeks after the trial, the Rittenhouse trial had ended. Weeks after. He's been acquitted when I posted this. This article goes on to say that 2 important facts are left out. 2 of the people Rittenhouse shot were killed, leading to 2 homicide charges against him, including one that carries a mandatory life prison sentence. It goes on to say for Timothy, no one died in the school shooting, and Timothy faces much lesser charges of aggravated assault. There's a wide difference in jail and bail. That's what this article says. Simpkins was released from the Tariff County Jail in Fort Worth on October 7, 2021, the day after the school shooting, after paying $75,000 bond. His case is pending with a court date scheduled for December 10, 2021. Rittenhouse was released from the Kenosha County Jail on November 20th, 2020 on $2 million bail. He had been in custody since surrendering to the police in his hometown of Kenosha, Illinois on August 26, 2020, the day after the Kenosha shooting. The jury in his trial on homicide charges begins deliberation on November 16, 2021. So why are you using this article to fact check me? The worst part about this is these two paragraphs alone is what my meme says. If you want to have a discussion about Timothy using self-defense in the school, there was claims that he was bullied and a video of a fight, we can have that conversation. I think we'll find very little common ground, but we can have that conversation. Back to this article. Simpkins, 18, was involved in a fight with a 15-year-old student at his high school in Arlington. The incident left 4 people hurt, including 3 wounded by gunfire. During the fight, Simpkins fired shots from a handgun. He turned himself in later that day after the police said he was wanted for the shooting. He didn't shoot these people and then run to a police line like Kyle Rittenhouse did. 1 teacher was injured from a fall. 3 people were wounded, 2 seriously. The 15-year-old who was in the fight with Simpkins, who was released from a hospital after several surgeries about 2 weeks later, and a teacher who was hospitalized. News reports, this is still the PolitiFact article. News reports initially linked the shooting to Simpkins being bullied at the school, but the police chief later said the bullying was not a factor. And that is a direct quote from the PolitiFact article. I went out of my way and I found you guys some audio of that press conference. Here is the Arlington police chief.
This was not a bullying incident. And I just want to take that narrative out of the equation.
Arlington Police Chief Al Jones gave an update on the investigation.
Mr. Simpkins is involved in high-risk activity. And that high-risk activity led to the disagreement within the community. I don't think this incident was an actual school shooting or active shooter. We wanted to charge him with the most severe charge that we could.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like Timothy Simpkins brought a gun to a fist fight.
And that he had to exhaust all methods. Clearly, if there is provocation, he's guilty. But even outside of provocation, why do you get to immediately just start shooting? As Mr. Binger said, he brought a gun to a fist fight.
Does anybody know where that audio's from? I'll give you 3 guesses. Can we all find common ground that this could relate to Timothy Simpkins? If you watch the video, there is an awful fight out there. I posted it on my Facebook of these 2 gentlemen getting into a fist fight. It is an awful video. That is the reason why I will have the conversation of self-defense with you. But to get there, to have that conversation, you have to indulge me and allow me to compare Timothy Simpkins to Kyle Rittenhouse. According to the prosecution in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, Timothy Simpkins would also be a coward. Let's make another little comparison here. This is something that no one has talked about, the left or the right media. Wisconsin law, chapter 66, subsection 4. Unless other facts and circumstances that indicate criminal or malicious intent on the part of the person apply, no person may be in violation of or be charged with a violation of an ordinance of a political subdivision relating to disorderly conduct or other inappropriate behavior for loading a firearm or for carrying or going armed with a firearm or a knife without regarding to whether the firearm is loaded or the firearm or the knife is concealed or openly carried. Any ordinance in violation of this subsection does not apply and may not be enforced. Layman's terms, if you look it up on a pro-gun website that talks about gun laws in different states, you are allowed to open and carry a long rifle in Wisconsin. I live in Maryland. When I first saw the video of Kyle Rittenhouse, I thought it was a little odd that he was running around with a firearm. In Wisconsin, it's perfectly legal. Now, we can have some argument. We can have a conversation over some other subsections in here where they talk about age. But that charge was dropped. I was surprised that it was dropped. Reading some of these subsections, it looks like you have to be a certain age to be in possession of a firearm. Now, heaven forbid that we stick with the facts. The Texas Association of School Boards, they have a firearm on school district property. Texas has labeled all of their schools gun-free school zones. It shall be unlawful for any individual knowingly to possess a firearm that has moved in or that otherwise affects interstate or foreign commerce at a place that the individual knows or has reason to cause to believe it is a school zone. This law was originally enacted in 1990. Shall I continue? Because I can. There's more to the Texas school board law. I can keep going. They define what a firearm is. A firearm means any weapon, including a starter gun, which will or is designed to which may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of any explosive, the frame or receiver of any such weapon, any firearm muffler, a firearm silencer, or any destructive device such as an incendiary, an explosive, or poison gas. Now, it goes on to make a little exception here. Antique firearms and fireworks are not included in this definition, nor are knives included in the definition. They are regulated by state law. They define what a school zone is. A school zone means in or on the grounds of or within 1,000 feet from the grounds of a public or private school. There are a few exceptions to these firearm policies. We can go case by case, but I don't think Timothy Simpkins really fits into any of them. When the carrier is licensed, if the individual possessing the firearm is licensed to do so by the state which the school zone is located or by a political subdivision of the state, and the law of the state or political subdivision requires that before an individual obtains such a license, the law enforcement authorities of the state or political subdivision verify that the individual is qualified under law to receive the license. So you have to have a special license to be able to carry a firearm in a school zone. Timothy Simpkins does not qualify for that, as far as I know. And let me tell you what, if he did, BLM would be yelling it from the rooftops. There's more exceptions. Let's just keep going. The firearm is unloaded and locked up. If the firearm is not loaded and is stored in a locked container or a locked firearm rack that is on a motor vehicle. Let me tell you what, the firearm was not in a motor vehicle. It was in a school, and it was not in a locked container because it was being fired. There are also pictures of him having the gun in his side door pocket, which is not a locked container or a firearm rack as far as I know. Allegedly, as far as I know. There's more exceptions. We can keep going. It's part of an approved program. If the firearm is carried by an individual for use in a program approved by the school in the school zone. I'm just assuming, since no one has said anything, Timothy Simpkins was not approved to carry the firearm in the school zone. With authorized by written contract, if the firearm is carried by an individual in accordance with a contract entered into between the school district and the individual or an employer of the individual. And lastly, can anybody take a guess what the last one is? A law enforcement. If the firearm is carried by a law enforcement officer acting in his or her official capacity. The Wisconsin law and this Texas Association of Board Firearms law are on my Facebook. You can go find them. They were not fact-checked by Facebook. The Wisconsin gun laws, they're 201 pages. You can control that firearm. The Texas school board laws, it's 19 pages. You read about 5 of them and you get the gist of it. You know what? PolitiFact is right. There is one massive difference between these two gentlemen, besides their skin color, if that's important to you. Do you know what Timothy Simpkins did after he opened fire at a high school? He got in his car and drove away. He ditched the gun in the middle of the road. Kyle Rittenhouse, after he discharged his weapon, ran to a police line where he was then maced and told to get out of the way. He went home and his mom drove him to a local police station. Now the media, they tell you it was the next day. When you're out at 11:30 at night and at 12:01 the next day you're turning yourself in, can we just all find common ground that both of these guys turned themselves in within a few hours? The major difference is Kyle Rittenhouse went to the police department with his rifle in hand and said, I shot 3 people, what do I do? Here is my gun. Timothy Simpkins went home, waited till they said he was a person of interest, said, oh crap, I already ditched the gun, and then turned himself into the police department. PolitiFact article does not say anything about that. This PolitiFact article goes on to spread what I would consider misinformation. This PolitiFact article says Rittenhouse, then 18, traveled across state lines from his home in Antioch, Illinois. I don't know if anybody lives near state lines. I went to school out on the eastern shore of Maryland. There was a time where I was living near Ocean City, where Delaware was a stone throw away. So we would cross state lines to buy groceries without the sales tax, and then smuggle them back into Maryland and make our dinners. So just so you guys have followed along with me, this PolitiFact article, everything that they have said about the bail and the jail time, it's confirmed it. With this PolitiFact article, the only thing that this PolitiFact article doesn't really touch on is harassed by state prosecutors and the news media to this day. That is the only part of the meme that the PolitiFact article does not address. Now, I wish we could all find common ground that the real reason this was fact-checked, the real reason PolitiFact wrote this article is because they don't want us to make the comparison. They don't want us to have this conversation, to compare and contrast, because there are differences and there are similarities. Yes, people died in Kyle Rittenhouse's situation, and Timothy Simpkins is an awful shot and was not able to hit his mark. So therefore, people didn't die. Both, according to the prosecution in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, both appear to have brought a gun to supposedly a fist fight, which according to Binger, the prosecution in the Kyle Rittenhouse jury, makes them both cowards. We've gone over Wisconsin law. Kyle Rittenhouse walking around with that firearm is not breaking the law in Wisconsin. The minute Timothy Simpkins, assuming he does not meet any of those 5 exceptions, assuming, because you better believe it, we would have heard about it already, assuming he doesn't meet any of those 5 exceptions, the minute that firearm is loaded, not locked up, and is within 1,000 feet of the grounds of a public or private school, he is breaking the law. Now, Facebook, I don't even think that they actually read the meme that I posted. The one that they continue to reference in this PolitiFact article says something along the lines of white privilege, which I really like to compare facts. So the facts that I listed in my meme are the time that individuals spent in jail, the amount of their bail, and the fact that I believe Kyle Rittenhouse was harassed by the media and the President of the United States, while many of you probably don't even know who Timothy Simpkins is. Now, this is one time of a handful during the campaign trail and kind of during the trial where Joe Biden commented on the Kyle Rittenhouse incident. This audio is from August 27th, 2020.
The president has not talked about the shooting of Mr. Blake. He's talked about violence at protests in the wake of it. I'm wondering why you think that is that he hasn't actually addressed it. There's obviously a lot we do not know about the circumstances around it, but the video obviously has been out there.
Well, look, I don't know enough to know whether that 17-year-old kid exactly what he did, but allegedly he's part of a militia coming out of the state of Illinois. Have you ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists? Have you ever heard it? That's the reason I got back in this race, because of what happened in Charlottesville. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, their veins bulging. Close your eyes and remember what you saw.
Where are you on this, PolitiFact? That is an absolute lie. And the episode that I was planning, I was actually going to talk a little bit about that. I did have some clips of Donald Trump denouncing white supremacists. This interview happened about 1.5 years ago. It's just crazy how much Joe Biden has declined during that time. Here, he's a little bit more articulate. If you watch the entire interview or listen to the entire interview like I have done, there are times where he is stumbling over his words and makes long pauses, but the majority of it, he does speak in clear, coherent sentences. But that's besides the point. The next 2 clips I would like to play is Peter Doocy asking Jen Psaki about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and about comments that Joe Biden had made previously regarding the Kyle Rittenhouse incident. So this one is during the trial, which happened on November 15th, 2021.
Out in the country on the infrastructure bill, and he's looking forward to having her out there too.
And then just something tied to an ongoing court case. Why did President Biden suggest that Kyle Rittenhouse on trial in Kenosha is a white supremacist?
So, Peter, what I'm not going to speak to right now is anything about an ongoing trial, nor the president's past comments. What I can reiterate for you is the president's view that we shouldn't have, broadly speaking, vigilantes patrolling our communities with assault weapons. We shouldn't have opportunists corrupting peaceful protests by rioting and burning down the communities they claim to represent anywhere in the country. As you know, closing arguments in this particular case, which I'm not speaking to, I'm just making broad comments about his own view. There's an ongoing trial. We're awaiting a verdict. Beyond that, I'm not going to speak to any individuals or this case.
But the president has spoken to it already. And his mom now, Kyle Rittenhouse's mom, came out saying that the president defamed her son, and that she claims that when the president suggested her son is a white supremacist, he was doing that to win votes. Is that what happened?
I just have nothing more to speak to an ongoing case where the closing arguments were just made. Go ahead.
And this one was after the trial, after Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted. This was 8 days later, November 23rd, 2021.
We know we're going to reduce crime and make our neighborhoods safer, but that is not one of them in his view.
Another topic. Would the president ever apologize to the acquitted Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse for suggesting online and on TV that he is a white supremacist?
Well, let's be clear what we're talking about here. This is about a campaign video released last year that used President Trump's own words during a debate as he refused to condemn white supremacists and militia groups. And President Trump, as we know from history, and as many of you covered, didn't just refuse to condemn militia groups on the debate stage, he actively encouraged them throughout his presidency. So, what we've seen are the tragic consequences of that. When people think it's okay to take the law into their own hands instead of allowing law enforcement to do its job. And the president believes in condemning hatred, division, and violence. That's exactly what was done in that video.
But if you're saying that it was just a campaign video, it wasn't. The president also gave an interview where he said this Rittenhouse was part of a militia coming out of Illinois. Have you ever heard this president referring to Trump say one negative thing about white supremacists? These are all things, none of this was proven in the trial. And Kyle Rittenhouse is saying that the president had actual malice in defaming his character. Is that what happened here?
The president spoke to the verdict last week. He has obviously condemned the hatred and division and violence we've seen around the country by groups like the Proud Boys and groups that that individual has posed in photos with. But beyond that, I'll leave it to his comments around the verdict.
And then just one more topic.
So everything in my meme is correct. Now remember, I haven't told you what PolitiFact ruled my meme. And let me read the final few paragraphs from this PolitiFact article. A viral image contrasting the treatment of two teens charged in shooting cases said that Simpkins, a black teen shooter, got 1 day in jail and $75,000 bail, while Rittenhouse, a white shooter, got 2 months in jail and $2 million bail, implying that Simpkins was treated more favorably. The bail and jail details are correct, but the post leaves out important facts. No one died in the case involving the black teen, praise the Lord, Simpkins, who was charged with aggravated assault, but 2 people died in the case involving the white teen, Rittenhouse, who crossed state lines to commit the shooting and was charged with homicide. Now, here is the whole reason why I had to change the topic of this episode. The final 2 sentences of the article. The image is partially accurate, but leaves out important details. We rate it half true. And I get a little box under my Facebook post saying missing context, click here to see why. People who are just scrolling through their Facebook real fast, who see the missing context, just go, oh, well, the chubby Caucasian Christian closeted conservative, he has no idea what he's talking about, and they just keep on going. And they rate it half true. Facebook, you can go eat rocks. Or as my buddy Dan says, eat sand. You know, if Facebook would have said this is not a fair comparison, I would disagree, but I would respect that more than this. This PolitiFact article basically confirms everything that my meme says. And you know what? If you really want to help me get back at Facebook, can you do me a favor? Can you go to the Chubby Caucasian Christian Closeted Conservative Facebook page and like that meme or comment on that meme, share that meme? Because they're not going to listen to me. But if I get a couple likes on it, maybe a couple of comments, then, you know, they start looking at this. There are a lot of differences in these cases, but there are a lot of similarities. And I want people to be able to have that conversation on an open platform like Facebook. We should be allowed to have that conversation. The whole reason why Facebook fact-checked me is because they want to monitor your speech. They want to monitor your conversation because that way we can control the narrative. Ever since I got fact-checked on this, I have posted articles every day on my Facebook regarding Timothy Simpkins because I don't want this case to be swept under the rug. Now, unfortunately, this trial is not going to be broadcasted nationally. You won't be able to watch it on television, but it's an important case to pay attention to. Another question that I have is why wasn't gun laws brought up? Gun control. Why wasn't gun control brought up during this story? Here is the narrative that Facebook wants to push. This is from October 6th, and this is a statement made by one of Timothy Simpkins' attorney the day of or the day after the shooting. I don't remember. I believe it's the day of. The attorney makes a statement arm in arm with the suspect's family.
He was scared. He was afraid. There's a video that's all out on social media, and it shows that he was being attacked. It wasn't just one person that would attack him and bully him, taking his money, harassing him due to the fact because he had more things than maybe others. It takes us all. It takes us all to stand together about this bullying. It could have been a situation where he took the other turn and decided to commit suicide. What the decision that he made, taking the gun, we're not justifying that. That was not right. But he was trying to protect himself. And so we hope that the police department does the investigation properly. There are going to be independent investigations that's going to be done as well, so that we can get to the bottom of really what happened.
Well, and you say that he was bullied exactly because he had, clearly y'all have a little bit of money, you know what I mean? Like, because of money situation, or what all are you saying that he was bullied about, and how many times did y'all report that?
Well, due to the fact that they were blessed financially, and so he was able to, get things maybe that other children could not get or teenagers could not have. And so because he wore nice clothes and because he drove nice cars and because he had the things, he was like a target, outgoing, loving person, being that he's been around his grandmother, his loving mother. They taught him to love, and he was a giver, mostly up until the point to where he got into his senior year, and it really became, he's looking forward to graduating and doing something with his life.
What would you like to say to the victims' families at the same time?
The victim's family, there is no justification of anybody who's being hurt. We have to take a look at the fact that bullying is real, and it takes us all. And I do apologize. We ask as a family for forgiveness of any type of hurt. It was never intention for it to go on like this.
That's the narrative that they want to push, the bullying thing. And another comparison between these two that I think is a fair conversation to have. I hope we can all find common ground that this is a very fair conversation to have is what happened afterwards, after they were released from bond. Kyle Rittenhouse wore a shirt that said "Free as F" and was out at a restaurant and was possibly with some sort of Proud Boys or white supremacist group. I don't know. I don't know any of these people in this photo. I don't see anything in the photo that would make me believe that they are white supremacists, and I have not seen any facts that would prove that they're white supremacists. So that's all speculation. After Timothy Simpkins was released from jail on a much lower bail, and spent less time in there, his family had a party. I think both of these photos and instances can show remorse. This is another attorney defending the suspect that, again, continues this narrative.
This was not someone who was just out to go and shoot up a school and had made up their mind, hey, I'm upset and I'm just going to shoot anyone I see. That was not the situation here.
Kim, what's next for Timothy and the family?
he has a criminal trial to contend with. So I believe that's what he will be focused on. And also, he's still a student. So.
And now I'm going to pull a move out of the handbook of the left. Binger did this in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. It happened a lot during Donald Trump's impeachment. I've played, and you know, this is what they say. I've played a lot of audio for you here. There's a lot of facts to consider in this case. But listen for yourself. Look at, you know, that's what they said during the impeachment and the Kyle Rittenhouse. See with your own eyes, and you tell me if he's guilty or not. So pulling a play out of the left handbook, why don't we listen to the account of a mother of one of the victims who was shot 4 times? Let's listen to the mother, and you listen for yourself and tell me if Timothy Simpkins is innocent or guilty. Forget all the other facts and audio that I've played before. Just throw that out the window. This is the most important part, is the emotional response that you have listening to a mother talk about her interaction with her child being shot.
He was shot 4 times, Zacchaeus Selby was, and Steve, on Wednesday morning about 9:13, 9:14, when other students at Timberview High School picked up cell phones, talk, text, or FaceTime with their parents about the shooting, Zacchaeus Selby FaceTimed his grandmother and mother, telling them he had been shot. It's a call no parent can ever be prepared to receive.
And he said, Mama, I've been shot. And I said, what? He said, I've been shot. Oh my God. And he held the phone, and I saw the hole in his chest. And it was just blood just pouring out of his chest. It was all over his clothes, his mouth, his ear, the concrete.
She rushed to Timberview High School.
Beating on the door, let me in, my baby's in there. But you know, they wouldn't let anybody in. And he came out on a stretcher. And I ran to the stretcher and I grabbed his hand, and he looked up and he said, I love you. And I said, I love you too. This football and video game. He's a regular teenager. He's 15. You know, it's my baby. Regular stuff like snacks and Takis, and I mean, he's just tennis shoes, cell phone, just regular teenager, but he's loving, and he's caring, and he's smart, and he's silly.
And do you know if what they were fighting or could have been fighting about?
They're in the same class.
Grandmother Kathy Selby spoke up.
They've asked her not to get into that because that's part of the investigation. That was literally the worst day of my life. I've lost my mother, but this was the worst day of my life. Staff is telling us that the teacher is so concerned about him.
Because she said, my boy's in the hospital too, and she said, can I pray with you? I love you. I'm gonna tell him I love him, and we're gonna do the same thing. Mommy loves you, and if you can hear me, squeeze my hand.
And that's a move right out of the left's playbook. Don't listen to any of the facts. Don't read any articles. Just listen to this crying mother depict a horrific, graphic conversation she had with her son after he was shot. If that brought any sort of emotion or a tear to your eye, then this individual is obviously guilty. That is a move out of the left playbook. So please help me out. This fact check, it's really gotten under my skin. Please go to my Facebook. Go to Facebook, search the Chubby Caucasian Christian Closeted Conservative, and look for my eagle. A family member of mine, she painted that eagle. She's very talented. She has a Redbubble account. So you go to Redbubble, search Robin N. Brown. That's Robin as the bird, N as the letter, and Brown as the color. There's also a link to her Redbubble account in my description. And please, I need help. Please go to Facebook and like this meme, post on this meme, comment, share it. Bring some sort of attention to it, because the facts on this meme and what PolitiFact has said in this article match. They didn't rate it false. It was half true. They confirmed all the facts I left out. PolitiFact and Facebook, they just don't like the comparison. So please look me up on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you later.